to do a Figma lesson on how to create vector graphics. So let's get started. So before we actually get into the creation of vector graphics, let's go over what is a vector. So there are actually two main types of images that you can find on the web, and it's differentiated between raster and vector. And you may wonder, what are these two? So let's look at raster images in more detail. So what raster images are is they're made from a pixel map. What this means is the image consists of different pixels, and which are just different solid color squared if you didn't know what it is. So if you look at the image that's on the presentation, you can see how every single pixel, there's like little squares, individual squares making up the smiley face. And those little squares are called pixels, if you didn't already know. And obviously this is easier for computers to process, sorry, because it's very easy to store data on pixel colors. Like for example, the computer right now on the picture, this is a great picture to illustrate the raster graphics. So if you look on the bottom of the picture, you can see RGB and their different percentages. All a computer needs to do is store that data, and then that basically tells the computer that this image is made up of different pixels. And this is a very good upside to this is it's really fast and easy, and it's also really commonly found. So like 90% or something. I forgot the data, but a really big number amount of images that you can find on the web are raster images. But the downside is, if you zoom in a lot, raster images are not start to become really blurry. Like if you can see in this picture, like this is a really good picture to illustrate everything again. Because if you look at this small smiley face here, if you guys can see my cursor, it's really small and it's really clear. Like you can see everything. You can't see any blurriness. But if you move on to the bigger picture, you can see that it starts getting really pixelated. And for certain applications, this is not very ideal because, for example, if you're making a website that needs to be run on a both a big TV screen and a small mobile phone, you have to make sure that the zooming doesn't make an image blurry. And for logos that are used like that, rasters are not very good, basically. Um, and obviously, it's really inconvenient at times. So, uh, common file types that you associate with raster images are your everyday JPEG, PNG. I'm pretty sure you guys know what those file types are. So that's what raster images are. And now you may be wondering, what are vector images, which is the second one we're going to be talking about. So vectors, like I named it on the title, I named it dynamic efficiency, and you're going to see why. So vector images, instead of different pixels being generated, like if you look at the illustration to our right, instead of different pixels generated, it's the vector is actually mathematically laid out on a coordinate. So in grade 9, I'm not sure what teacher you guys had, but in grade 9 math, you would have done an assignment where you plotted different points on a Cartesian plane, and you would have connected them with lines, and you would have written down the coordinates. I'm not sure if it's only me and Mr. Taylor, but I'm pretty sure every math teacher does that. You should remember this. That essentially is what a vector images is. So rather than pixels, individual pixels, it's actually basically a set of coordinates. And when you open a vector image, the computer actually connects those points together and loads the color data and everything. So it's actually generated like on the spot rather than stored, if you know what I mean. And if you look at the screen right now, with a lot of zooming, you can see the quality is very good because the image is actually because the different points on the Cartesian plane, right? It can be modified based on the zoom. So, for example, a point that's on originally on 1 and 1, for example, if you want to double the size of the image, the point now may be 2 and 2, right? And every other point follows the mathematical formula to increase the size, and now you have a better generated picture, essentially. And vectors are very useful because for most web apps in a hackathon situation, your front end designer is going to be wanting vectors because it's very easy to work with and it's dynamic. So it's a front end designer's best friend, to be honest, and it cuts down on file size as well. So instead of rather than individual pixels being stored, you're only storing mathematical data. So it's really efficient, if you will. And common file types that we use are SVG, EPS, and more. But for today, we will be sticking to SVG, which stands for Scalable Vector Graphic. and that's what we're going to be working on. Sorry. So, if you might have figured out, you might have figured out already, why do we use vector images, vector graphics? Sorry, if you will. It's because fluid resizing. That's really it. With vector graphics, you are able to fluidly resize a logo. For example, just a logo, right? That's what we're going to be making today, and that's really useful for websites like the. If you refer back to the computer and phone example that I made, like vector images are very very good for applications where you need to make a logo bigger or smaller essentially. So let's make a vector logo. So if you guys want to, this lesson is going to be a really short lesson anyways, so I suggest you guys follow along. So if you guys know how to use Figma, which I assume most of you will, because for the past like month, actually since the beginning of this club, we've been teaching Figma and its applications. So if you guys want, you can hop into Figma right now and follow along. I'll give you guys like a minute to hop on. All right, so while I wait for you guys to get on, I'm just gonna get set up here. Let's just make a random frame here. Make it like 500 by 500 to represent our the size of our logo. Yeah, that's fine. Actually, make it 400 so it fits a little better into the screen, like that. Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna get started now. So basically, in order to create a vector in Figma, there are different tools that you can use. If you've used Figma before, you're definitely going to be familiar with all these tools. So essentially, this is very similar to Illustrator. It's basically a simple version of Illustrator. Because some people, you guys are at home and you guys don't have some of you don't have access to a PC and Illustrator. I'm just going to do everything on Figma. But if you remember the steps here, and you do use Illustrator later on, it's a very similar process. So that's basically it. So if you're new to Figma here, which I assume some of you are, here are the tools. Basically, this is a select and move tool, and there's a scale tool as well. But it's really, if you've used Google Slides, which yeah, it's really similar to Google Slides. It's a very simple user interface. So I guess we'll actually introduce the tools as we go along. So for the example today, we're going to be making a simple mail icon, which is very very there's a lot of mail icons here, but like it's simple, so that's what we're going to be doing today. I don't want to keep make the lesson way too long. So the tool that we're going to be mostly using today is called the pen tool. Basically, with the pen tool, you're able to create one point. So that's like kind of the coordinate that we're talking about, and then you're able to drag anywhere to create curves, straight lines, and yeah. So for example, let's create this line. That is a line, right? So with this ability, you're actually able to do a lot of things like creative, make really creative shapes. So today we're just gonna be focusing on something simple, but with this, if you're really artistically, you're like if you're an artist, you can definitely make something a lot more complex. So let's get rid of this for now. So you can actually use the images, I mean not images, sorry, the shapes tool to create vectors as well. But that's simple. We're just gonna show you how to do it with a pen tool. So first of all, let's get started with one coordinate and leave it down. And let's just create a simple rectangle for now. So let's just make it something that looks like this. Like I'm not paying really attention to the actual dimensions of this, but we're just gonna leave it like this. So now you have a vector. If you look on the layers panel, you see that this is called vectors one. And now you can move it around, drag it around and stuff. So in order to edit this, you may say, "Wow, this doesn't look like a mail icon," and I agree with you. So in order to make more edits, you actually have to click this button right here. If you can see my mouse, it says Edit Object. It's the first one in the middle of your on the top middle of your screen. You can click that, or you can click Enter, and that'll put you into vector edit mode. And there are different, sorry, vector edit mode, yeah, and just edit mode in general. But for the vector that we're working on right now, it's just called vector edit. So obviously you still have your pen tool, you have your bend tool, which I will go over a little bit more, and you have the paint bucket tool, which is just really self-explanatory. So going to our pen tool, let's add some points here. So obviously when you have your pen tool out, you have these edges laid out for you. Sorry, not edges, corners laid out for you, and you can follow the edges. It gives you the middle of it, which makes which makes it really easy to do a very good design. So let's do a helping line right here and draw it down a little bit, maybe something like that. And let's connect these two together so we get that shape. Let's go into edit one more time so I can delete this line. Um, select this line. All right. Just to show you guys this, you can actually get out the pen tool, go to select a line, and then click delete on your keyboard, and that'll get rid of the line. So we'll do the same thing with this line right here. Didn't mean to do that. You can also drag points to connect it with other points, and that'll just connect like a ordinary line. So let's finish this mail icon. Maybe we'll do something like this, another helping line, and we'll connect these two together. Obviously, if you're more artistically gifted, sorry, you can create more complex shapes. But for now, we're just gonna leave this mail icon. Let's just go ahead and edit that again. Select this line and delete it. So now we have a very basic letter or mail icon, if you will. In the hackathon project, you will be as a designer, you are going to need to make logos for your web app or whatever you're making. If you're making something like software, so yeah. So let's just get out of vector edit mode for a second, and you have this shape that you just made out of nowhere, which is pretty cool in my opinion. So uh, if you go to the panel on your right, the design panel, you can actually do a lot of things. Like you can give it rounded corners up here. Let's just give it a 20 rounded corner. So now on the inside, you have this rounded corner effect, which makes it look pretty cool and realistic. You can select this vector again, and you can position it down the middle, and you can add effects as well. So for example, if we want a drop shadow effect, that automatically does it for us. And there's inner shadow, layer blur. This is kind of just goes back to Photoshop if you guys were here for that workshop. And in order to make the edges a little bit more thick, we will use the stroke tool. That's actually a little bit too much. Maybe 15. That looks pretty good. That. So that's basically how you do this. And so let's just go over some vector edit tools a little bit more in depth. So if you go to the top right now, there's a tool called the bend tool. If you select that, you're able to grab individual points and make bends. Now, obviously, right now in the setting that I'm working on, like the mail tool that I'm working on right now, bending stuff will just like that just makes everything look super goofy. So we're just gonna undo that. But if you do want to make curves, for example, you can just grab a point and do this. Like do this. And you can just drag around. You can obviously position this middle dot in anywhere you want, and that's where the curve will happen essentially. So like if you see, if I put this closer to the outer edge, sorry, outer corner, it happens closer to here. If I pull it closer to the middle, the bend actually happens around here. So that's pretty cool. And sorry, what was that? Did anybody have a question? I heard someone's mic get opened. All right, anyways, let's just continue where we left off. So if we're moving on, that's basically the bend tool. Moving on, we have the paint bucket tool. And the paint bucket basically is what it is. And Figma is cool because it automatically does this for you. In Illustrator, I think you have to specify as well in a path. So like if you hover over any enclosed part of the envelope, you can paint it a certain color. So for example, we can paint that gray right here. If you want, you can add a fill right here, and then you can change its color obviously, but you can select that, and then it automatically paint buckets that certain part of the vector, which is pretty cool. Gives it a nice cool color. But we're not going to do that today because I have another design going on. So let's just click done. That's basically the vector edit tool. Obviously, it's really simple, but if you want to create more complex shapes, I mean, the sky's the limit basically. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna layer this with a nice gradient, so then it becomes like a really nice bluish gray, bluish like not gray, sorry, bluish like purplish color. It's really nice. You guys will see what I'm talking about. So in order to do that, you want to create a rectangle, or you can just import a gradient that you made from in Photoshop or found on the internet. It doesn't really matter, but you can make a gradient here on Figma, and it's really nice. So what you need to do is go to this shape. Obviously, you guys probably know how to do this. So go to the linear, and then now you have this thing, this gradient tool. Make a gradient that you like. So let's just make something that's bluish, blue to um, like a darker blue maybe. Not sure how good that looks. Try a purple blue gradient like I was talking about. That looks pretty cool. So now that you have your gradient, you go to your vector and you can actually click this and click use as mask. And now the like if you look at the layer side, the vector is actually using the is actually as masking the rectangle that's containing the gradient. Sorry if that didn't make any sense, but that's basically it. And you can move the gradient around. Obviously, if you move the rectangle down, it's going to start disappearing because it's not being covered by anything. But that's basically it. So this is a simple mail icon that I just made in like maybe 10 minutes. If you can do this quickly, it's like a 2-minute project thing. But for more complex projects, you obviously need to do more. So that's basically it for Figma. In order to export this and send this to your front end developer, or just keep the image for fun because you do that sometimes, go to export, and then right here, sorry, you would go to design. Make sure you select iPhone 11, your layer, and then go ahead and select, go down into export, and you can go to export. So here it says 1x. It doesn't really, you can leave it to anything you want. That's just, you know. And then here you have your image format. Now, as we already discussed before, PNG and JPEG, those are what's it called? Those are raster image types. And the SVG and PDF, I mean, you can save it as a PDF, but PDF is just a document file. SVG is basically the scalable vector graphic, and that's what we want. So you want to click on SVG, and you want to click export iPhone. This will be any name, but for the frame that I'm using right now, it's called iPhone 11 Pro Max. So just go ahead and click export, and that'll download it as an SVG file. And you may see that this logo is not displaying as your local file, your local image file, because it's not. It's an SVG file. So if you open it, that'll display the mail, and that's pretty cool. So you can zoom in and out of it, and as you can see, the quality is not decreasing. You can't see like pixelation of the image. I'm not sure why the corners are like that. Um, maybe it's just a little too big or something. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe this is just a flaw that yeah, the preview looks fine. I'm not sure, but you got the idea of this thing, and it's gonna be simple. You're gonna make all kinds of logos in the future. So that's basically it for the design section of this workshop. Obviously, I already told you guys it's gonna be a really short workshop. So if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and ask in questions or something. And just like before in the Photoshop and the other Figma lessons that we did with the pizzas and stuff, if you want, you can make one of these projects and post it in design related on our Discord server. So let's just take a look here. Design related right here. So if you made one of these, you will just post it right here. Actually, it's not design related. It's in project showcase. Sorry, that's my bad. And if you guys want to look at these are very good projects that our club members have made. And that's basically it. It's a really simple lesson. If you guys missed the workshop, it's gonna be like if you guys want clarification on anything, it's gonna be on. Oh, actually, my Discord is not being streamed. That's fine. If you go like right above the design workshop, it should say project showcase. If you made something for this workshop, we want to see it. Put it in project showcase, and yeah. So that's basically it. Obviously, like I was saying, the workshop is going to be recorded, and it's going to be uploaded onto YouTube. If you have any questions or miss anything in the workshop today, and if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ping all of us. We'll be happy to help you. And that's basically it. Like I said, it's going to be a shorter workshop today, but uh, the attendance should be up soon. And that's basically it. Thank you guys for coming. I guess you're free to leave.